Okay, let's get started again. I'm going to skip a bunch. When they leave and meet up with Merry and Pippin and Tom Bombadil. And I want to pick up with the chapter at the sign of the Prancing Pony when they meet up with Aragorn. And I just want to pause here for a moment briefly. Actually, it's not the sign of the Prancing Pony, it's Strider. It's at the sign of the Prancing Pony when they meet with Strider, and he alludes to Frodo's real, his real identity, and it kind of surprises Frodo. Chapter 10, they go up with Strider back to their rooms, and Strider tries to appeal to them to say, that he knows their business and that he's a friend. Page 165. Let's see here. And at the bottom of the page, 165, Sam says, "With your leave, Mr. Frodo, I'd say no. This Strider here, he warns and he says take care, and I say yes to that. And let's begin with him. He comes out of the wild, and I never heard no good of such folk. He knows something, that's plain, and more than I like. But it's no reason why we should let him go leading us out into some dark place far from help, as he puts it." Frodo says, I don't really agree, Sam. He says, I think you're not really as you choose to look. You began to talk to me like the brave folk, but your voice has changed. Still, Sam seems right. Who are you? What do you really know? And how do you know it? Okay. Butterbur comes in, and he delivers to Frodo the letter that Gandalf had written. And he reads the letter. And on 168, Butterbur says, if I were you, I wouldn't take up with a ranger. Strider, who would you take up with? Fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day? Will you go with them and keep the black men off? Me? Leave Bree? Well, I wouldn't do that for any money, says Mr. Butterbur. Why can't you stay here quiet for a bit, Mr. Underhill? Where are all these queer goings on? What are these black men after? Where do they come from? I'd like to know. Frodo, Strider, they come from Mordor. Notice, Frodo won't explain it. Strider just, between the eyes, nails them. They come from Mordor. From Mordor, Barliman, if that means anything to you. Save us, Mr. Butterbur cries out. That is the worst news that has come to Bree in my time. Frodo, yeah, it is. Are you going to help me? I am, more than ever, though I don't know what the likes of me can do against the shadow in the east. And, Strider's just being a bundle of cheer here. Not much, Barliman, but every little bit helps. So, Frodo reads the letter out loud. And it includes, make sure it's the real Strider. His real name is Aragorn. All that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither, deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadow shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king. So Frodo says, why didn't you tell me you were Gandalf's friend at the beginning? Would it have made a difference? Would any of you have believed me till now? I knew nothing of this letter, Aragorn says. And he says, the enemy has laid all kinds of traps for me before. He says, I look like a hunted man, but there I believe my looks are against me. Pippin, they are. Handsome is as handsome does. Okay? Sam still isn't convinced. How do we know that you're the Strider that Gandalf speaks about? You never mentioned Gandalf till this letter came out. You might be a play-acting spy for all I can see, trying to get us to go with you. You might have done in the real Strider and took his clothes. What have you to say to that? That you are a stout fellow, but I'm afraid my only answer to you, Sam, is this. If I had killed the real Strider, guess what? You're toast, because I could kill you just as well. But I am the real Strider, he says. I'm Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and if by life or death I can save you, I will. And then Frodo says this. I believed you were a friend before the letter came. He says, I think one of his, Sauron's spies, would have, seen fair and feel fouler. And Strider's like, okay, I get it. So what you're saying is I look foul and feel fair. Is that it? All that is gold does not glitter? Frodo, so the verse is applied to you? Have you ever seen that? Aragorn, I did not know, but I am Aragorn, and those verses go with that name. So what does all that mean? All that gold does not glitter. He seems fairer, but looks fouler. How should Aragorn look?
Like a king?
Should he? All that's gold does not glitter? Gold usually glitters. Gold doesn't tarnish. So Tolkien seems to be saying physical appearances aren't what you can go on. Because Aragorn shouldn't look like Viggo Mortensen. He shouldn't be a cutie. Okay? If I were to cast this, look up Sam Elliott. Okay? 2 L's, I believe. Elliot. He's older now. He's, 65 or 70.
Was he in Roadhouse?
Yes.
He played opposite Swayze.
Yeah, played opposite Patrick Swayze. He was in the film We Were Soldiers once with Mel Gibson about Vietnam, where he played the sergeant major. He's a very famous actor, but it's all character stuff. It's never where he's the main character. And he's got this just deep, bassy, gravelly voice. I mean, it sounds like tires spinning over gravel, his voice does. He's not, quote-unquote, classically handsome. He's good-looking, but it's like somebody who's been living out on the prairie for the last 40 years. I mean, he really looks weathered. That's what Aragorn ought to look like. Aragorn at this point in the novel, the old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. He's 87 years old. Okay? Denethor, I don't remember if Tolkien gives us the exact chronology, but if I remember right, Denethor is like only in his, Theoden, is only like in his late 40s, early 50s. Okay? Aragorn knew Theoden's father. He knew Eomer's grandfather, put it that way. Okay? In fact, he is even older than Denethor. And Denethor is kind of portrayed as a frail old man. Not like Aragorn, okay? So there's this aspect to Aragorn where he looks pretty rough on the outside. Okay, we're going to skip a bunch. Not because I want to, but because we need to. Frodo gets wounded at Weathertop because he's a fool. He puts on the ring because they tell him to. Put on the ring, put on the ring, put on the ring. He puts on the ring, and he tries to kill the Captain of the Nine, but he can't. And they make it to Rivendell, notice, without any help from Arwen, warrior princess. There is no Arwen, warrior princess here. And Chapter 2 is very similar to Chapter 2. That is, Chapter 2, Book 2 is very similar to Chapter 2, Book 1. It's all exposition. Tolkien takes that place to, in this chapter, give us the rest of the story that we need. Okay? So you get the Council of Elrond. In the foreword, he referred to The Shadow of the Past as the crucial chapter. I would say Council of Elrond is the second most crucial chapter. Okay? So we're going to skip a bunch of it, however. Frodo meets Gloin, and he meets Gimli, etc., etc. Boromir finally arrives. And on page 242, we get this comment by Elrond. You've done well to come. You will hear today all that you need in order to understand the purposes of the enemy. There is naught that you can do other than to resist with hope or without it. But you do not stand alone. You will learn that your trouble is but part of the trouble of all the Western world. The ring. What shall we do with the ring? The least of rings. The trifle that Sauron fancies. That is the doom that we must deem. Doom there means judgment. Okay? That is the purpose for which you are called hither. Called, I say, though I have not called you to me, strangers from distant lands. You have come and are here met in this very nick of time by chance, as it may seem. Yet it is not so. Believe, rather, that it is so ordered, that we who sit here and none others must now find counsel for the peril of the world. Okay, listen to that language. He says, it looks like chance, but it's not chance. This is how things are ordered. This is why, when I teach my Tolkien rolling course, I require those students to read Boethius' Consolation of Philosophy, written in the late 5th, early 6th century. Because what Boethius does in there is he argues for a governance of the world, governance of the universe, that is ultimately God's providence over everything, so that nothing happens by accident. And that's why Christ says, not even a sparrow falls without my Father knowing, etc. When Elrond says, it might look like chance, but it's not really, there's going to be 2 or 3 other little statements like that throughout the whole novel. That kind of says, okay, we're in this universe that things don't just happen by happenstance, by chance. Okay? So, Elrond starts the storytelling. And he goes on, he talks about Sauron, he talks about the Rings of Power, he talks about their forging in the Second Age. And page 243, he talks about when the gates to Thangor-Drim were broken open, and Frodo goes, whoa, pause. You remember? But I thought the fall of Gil-galad was a long age ago. Elrond, so it was, but my memory reaches back even to the elder days. Eärendil was my sire, who was born in Gondolin before its fall. My mother was Elwing, daughter of Dior, son of Luthien. Okay, so we've just been given a little chronology. We have Elrond, whose mother was, sire. My mother was Elwing, who was daughter of Dior, who was child of Beren and Luthien. Okay, of Silmarill's fame. In fact, what else does he say? He says, Eärendil was my sire. Eärendil was one who took the last surviving Silmaril and went with it to the gods to beg for their help. Okay? Read the Silmarillion. And then Boromir chimes in. So that's what became of the ring. Okay? So Boromir... hold on, let me go back. Elrond goes on and talks about how Isildur was a fool, how he took the ring for himself. Then Boromir stands up and he says, it's time for me to speak. He says what his message is. He talks about the Black Horseman. And after Boromir finishes, Aragorn stands up and says to Boromir, "Here in the house of Elrond, more shall be made clear to you. Here's the sword that was broken." And he shows Boromir the sword that is still broken, notice. Okay? And Boromir says, "Yeah, who are you, buddy? What do you have to do with Minas Tirith?" Elrond. Notice how different this is from the film. Elrond comes to Aragorn's defense. He is Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and he is descended through many fathers from Isildur, Elendil's son of Minas Ithil. He is the chief of the Dunedain in the north, and few are now left of that folk. That's Elrond's way of saying, who the hell are you, Boromir? You're the son of the steward. This is your future king. Sit down and shut up. Frodo, finally! What's Frodo thinking? I can get rid of the ring. It's yours. Hold on there, buddy. You hold on to it. So Frodo pulls it out. Notice, Boromir's eyes glinted. Now, when we meet Gollum, whenever we hear that Gollum's eyes glint, you know nothing good is going to happen. Okay? It's a sign of, it's almost always a sign of some kind of evil intent. Okay? I say almost because earlier when it referred to Gandalf's eyes glinting, it's because he was angry. Okay? So, Aragorn reinterprets what Boromir said and said the poem wasn't about the doom of Minas Tirith. Okay? He said, what was it about? Doom is near at hand. Okay? What does doom mean again? Judgment is near at hand. So Boromir asks, can you come to Minas Tirith? You're going to bring the sword that was broken? Aragorn says, not sure yet. If I can, I will. And then Aragorn says, 248, for my part, I forgive your doubt. Little do I resemble the figures of Elendil and Isildur as they stand carven in their majesty in the halls of Denethor. I am but the heir of Isildur, not Isildur himself. I've had a hard life and a long, and the leagues that lie between here and Gondor are a small part in the count of my journeys. I've crossed many mountains and many rivers and trodden many plains, even into the far countries of Rhûn and Harad, where the stars are strange. If you have your book, and you look at this map of Middle-earth, okay, Boromir's been, kind of proud about how far he's traveled. He's traveled from Minas Tirith, which is like right here. He's traveled from here up to here. Okay. Pretty good distance. I think he says something like 110 leagues. Aragorn's like, not so much, buddy. He says, I've traveled over into Rhûn and over into, this is near Harad. Far Harad is off the page. Okay? And he says, that's not even, find my place, even into the far countries where the stars are strange. He says, but for my home, it's up here in the north, etc., etc. Okay? And he says, Boromir, if Gondor has been a stalwart tower, we Rangers of the North, have played another part. What have they done? Many evil things there are that your strong walls and bright swords do not stay. You know little of the lands beyond your bounds. Peace and freedom? The North would have known them little but for us. Fear would have destroyed them. But when dark things come from the houseless hills or creep from sunless woods, they fly from us. What roads would any dare to tread? What safety would there be in quiet lands or in the homes of simple men at night if the Dunedain were asleep or were all gone into the grave? So what's he saying the Rangers have been? Sentinels. Sentinels. They're like the police of the northern Middle-earth. They're out on patrol. And yet less thanks have we than you. That is, people acknowledge Gondor. You're this great mighty city. You get all kinds of attention. Travelers scowl at us, and countrymen give us scornful names. Strider I am to one fat man who lives within a day's march of foes that would freeze his heart, or lay his little town in ruin if it were not guarded ceaselessly. All that is the build-up to this. Yet we would not have it otherwise. If simple folk are free from care and fear, simple they will be. That is, if they're free from fear and care, they will remain simple. Simple doesn't mean unenlightened. It doesn't mean ignorant. It doesn't mean stupid. It means going about their own daily affairs. Simple they will be, and we must be secret to keep them so. That is, we rangers, we don't let them know what we're doing to keep them free from care. Now, he's talking about the Shire, he's talking about Bree, and places like that, where they don't have any understanding of what's going on in the wide world, to use the language from I hate it when I can do that. I can't remember the name of the novel. Toad and Rat and Wind in the Willows. That has been the task of my kindred while the years have lengthened and the grass has grown. But now he says the sword shall be reforged. I will come to Minas Tirith. Okay? But Boromir's not convinced that it's Isildur's bane. So Frodo comes up and tells the story. And then Gandalf talks. And Gandalf tells them about Sauron. I'm skipping a bunch. And his being captured, not Sauron, Saruman. And his being captured by Saruman. And he tells them what rhetoric Saruman uses on him. Page 259. And how Saruman says, I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman Ringmaker, Saruman of many colors. And Gandalf says, I looked then and saw that his robes, which had seemed white, were not so, but were woven of all colors. And if he moved, they shimmered and changed hue, so that the eye was bewildered. I liked white better. White. It serves as a beginning. White cloth may be dyed, the white page can be overwritten, and the white light can be broken, in which case it is no longer white. And he that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom. Okay? In which case it is no longer white. Little clue there. Saruman the White is no longer Saruman the White. Okay? He's become broken. He's become fragmented. So, what does Saruman say? We must have power. Power to order all things as we will, for that good which only the wise can see. Well, who does that sound like? Sounds like our politician masters who try to tell us what we should eat, what we should not eat, what we should smoke, what we should not smoke, what we should, what is a good business to invest in, what is not a good business to invest in, the whole 9 yards. Okay? Notice how he changes now. Gandalf, my old friend and helper. I said we, because what can we do? If we had the ring, we could help the new power. Nobody can withstand him. Okay? It would be wise, Gandalf. We may join with that power. It would be wise. There is hope that way. Its victory is at hand. And as the power grows, its proved friends will also grow. And the wise, such as you and I, may with patience do what? come at last to direct its courses. Why? Because I know he's going to do a lot of bad stuff. We understand that. Sauron's evil. Okay. But maybe after years of our siding with him, we can gently direct his movements, his attention. Saruman is using the language of constructive engagement, where in political language, constructive engagement is when a nation engages with another nation that behaves despicably. And they do it with the hope that by engaging with the bad nation, they can gently bring that nation over to good behavior. Okay? It's like, Obama's reset with Russia. We're going to reset the relationship with Russia to bring Russia more into line with the rest of the world. It's worked really well, hasn't it? Talk to the people in eastern Ukraine. Talk to the, security agent who was kidnapped in Estonia or Latvia last week. And when the Russians saying he was on their territory and everybody else said, no, not really. Okay? Talk to Crimea, which is now, in Russian hands. Constructive engagement doesn't usually work. Gandalf sees right through this. Saruman. I've heard speeches of this kind before, but only in the mouths of emissaries sent from Mordor to deceive the ignorant. He says, okay, so you don't like this idea. Okay, I get it, I understand. He goes, but what if, you and I could command the One Ring, the ruling ring? What if we did that? I have many eyes in my service, is it not so? Or why do the 9 ask for the Shire? What is your business there? He goes, Saruman, only one hand at a time can wield the one. And you know that well, so do not trouble to say we. I would not give it to you, now that you've unmasked yourself. So, what are your choices? Submit to you, submit to Sauron? Sauron, is that it? Don't like those. What's your other choice? To stay put. Okay? So, Gwaihir, the Wind Lord, comes and rescues Gandalf. And they go back, or Gandalf then, goes back to addressing the council. And what do? They spend the next several pages talking about what do we do with the ring? What are their options? What are some of the ideas that people throw out? They say, let's, 1, throw it in the sea. Okay. What's the problem with that?
It'll eventually return.
Yeah, doesn't deal with it forever. Okay, so not a good idea. 2, send it over the sea. Send it to Valinor. What's the problem with that? They won't take it. It's not their problem. Okay. Give it to Tom Bombadil. After all, it doesn't seem to have any power over him. Gandalf said, really not a good idea. Because Tom Bombadil's kind of, he's kind of scatterbrained. He'll be dancing, singing along with the flowers, and he'll drop it somewhere. And Old Man Willow will get it, and it'll be like a fax to Sauron. Okay? Not a good idea. Plus, he says he wouldn't take it. It's not his problem. Okay? What else? We could keep it. No. Too much temptation. So, keeping it is out.
Does Boromir say we should wield it against them?
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of this. Boromir says, let's use it. Okay. So let's say 5. Use it. Make that 6. And they're like, are you crazy? So that's no good. Destroy it. How? It has to be taken to the Sammath Naur, the fires of Orodruin. And they go, yep, needs to be taken. And everybody goes, okay. And they start looking down. Because that's one of those situations you don't want to be caught looking up because somebody goes, oh, a volunteer, very good. And so there's, silence. It's like the scene in Paradise Lost where God, the Father, says, who's going to restore my fallen creation? And there's silence in heaven. And finally the Son says, I'll go. Okay? And Frodo finally chimes up. I will take the ring, though I do not know the way. And Elrond says, Frodo, from everything I've heard, I think this task is appointed for you. And if you do not find a way, no one will. This is the hour of the Shire folk, when they arise from their quiet fields to shake the towers and councils of the great. Who, of all the wise, could have foreseen it? But it's a heavy burden, so heavy that none could lay it on another. I do not lay it on you, but if you take it freely, I will say that your choice is right. And though all the mighty elf friends of old were assembled together, your seat should be among them. And Sam says, but he's not going to go alone, is he? And Sam offers. So what do? They create the fellowship. Why? What's the purpose of the fellowship?
Purpose.
9 against 9.
9 against 9, 9 walkers against the 9 riders, okay. What else?
To represent each of them.
Okay, they fill it out with the free peoples of Middle Earth. You have your elf quota and your dwarf quota and your hobbit quota and your man quota and your wizard quota, I guess. What else? It's to ensure that it doesn't fail. You pick one off, you still have 8. You pick another off, you still have 7. It's to see that the quest doesn't fail. Okay? So they leave. They go south. Boromir blows his big horn, which is a mistake. And again, I've got to skip a bunch because we only have less than an hour left. Gandalf falls in Khazad-dûm. The others go on to Lorien, or Lothlorien, and I want to pick up with the Mirror of Galadriel. About page 362. Sam and Frodo are offered elf magic. And Sam says, I wouldn't mind a peek. See what's going on at home. The lady tells him, I can't tell you what you're going to see if it's something that's happened, something that's happening, something that's going to happen. Sam looks in, and what does he see? After a while, he sees the Shire being destroyed. The old mill being thrown down, and Ted Sandyman, and all this kind of stuff. And he thinks, I've got to go. And the lady says, you cannot go home alone. Top of 363. You did not wish to go home without your master before you looked in the mirror, and yet you knew that evil things might well be happening in the Shire. Did he? Did Sam think evil things would be happening in the Shire? No. Why did Frodo take the ring?
So they wouldn't.
To protect the Shire. Frodo says, I will take the ring. I must leave the Shire so that these fat, stupid, dumb, proudfoots and hornblowers and hornbogglers, whatever, can live their lives the way they've known to live them. Sam says, nope, I'll go home by the long road with Mr. Frodo or not at all. So now Frodo looks. And what does he see? He sees a old figure walking down a road. Then he sees a pause, and these scenes change. And then he sees an eye, and the eye's kind of going bing, bing, and it's triangulating. It's getting closer and closer. Galadriel says, don't touch the water. And she says, I know what you saw. I see it all the time. But do not think that only by singing amid the trees, nor even by the slender arrows of elven bows, is this land of Lothlorien maintained and defended against its enemy. I say to you, Frodo, that even as I now speak to you, I perceive the Dark Lord and know his mind. She lifts up her arms, and Frodo goes, oh, there's one of the rings. And so what does Frodo do? You are wise and fearless and fair, Lady Galadriel. I will give you the one ring, if you ask for it. It is too great a matter for me. And she's like, Yes. Instead of Sauron, you will set up a queen, and I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night. No, not so much. And she says, I pass the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel. Okay? She passes the temptation to become ruler, as it were, of Middle-earth. So they get ready to leave. And Galadriel and her maidens give them all gifts. Okay? Some of the gifts are generic, that is, they all get them. They all get the cloak, they all get the brooch that closes the cloak, they all get Limbus. But then they each get their own particular gifts. Frodo gets the phial with the water of the Mirror of Galadriel in it. Okay? The water was lit by the Star of Eärendil, so it has that light in it. Sam gets rope and earth and 3 seeds. Legolas gets a new bow and new bowstring. Aragorn gets a sheath for his sword so that it'll never break again. Kind of good for him to have. Merry and Pippin, I frankly don't remember what they get. Boromir gets a big WWE, belt, golden belt buckle. What does Gimli get? Yeah, because he has nothing. And she's like, well, I didn't know what to give you. And he's like, well, what would you ask? No, go ahead. 3 strands of your hair. And the elves are like, what? Let's kill the little... And she says, what are you going to do with my hair? Encase it in solid, eternal crystal, and it'll be the wealthiest. And she's like, oh, shucks. And she gives it to him, okay? Which will be a little important later on. Not for any deep significance, but just for what it shows in terms of the relationship of those two. Go on to the last chapter. I guess we're going to get out of here before I expected. The breaking of the fellowship. You're on the river. Frodo mentions that Gollum is still following them. Sees the eyes. And they land at Parth Galen. Because they've now reached the Falls of Rauros, and they have to decide what they're going to do. Frodo's question is pretty clear. Okay. He needs to turn left to make his way to Mordor. Boromir's route and Aragorn's route, if Aragorn goes to Minas Tirith, will be to the right to go to Minas Tirith. So they go to the lawn of Parth Galen, and Frodo says, I need some time. So they say, okay, you can wander around, but don't stray far. Because they already know there are orcs in the area. They've, seen the signs. So Frodo goes off, and Boromir suddenly shows up. And Boromir's like bottom 397, the ring. The ring. Is it not a strange fate that we should suffer so much fear and doubt for so small a thing? So small a thing. And I've seen it only for an instant. Can I not have a sight of it again? And Frodo's like, don't think so. But can I even speak of it? He says, some things about the ring, and Frodo's like, weren't you at the council? Because we can't use it, and what is done with it turns to evil. Okay, remember that. Anything done with the ring turns to evil. The ring cannot be used for good purposes. Gandalf makes it pretty clear. The ends don't justify the means. The means have got to be good as well. Okay? So, Boromir goes on. What could not a warrior do in this hour? A great leader. What could not Aragorn do? Or if he refuses, why not Boromir? The ring would give me the power of command. How could I drive the hosts of Mordor? And he starts striding back and forth, and making hand gestures. And I would command, like the Sorcerer's Apprentice in the Disney Fantasia, bringing up storms and lightning. And Frodo says, yeah, I see clearly now. My mind is clearer. Then you will come with me to Minas Tirith? No. But you will come? No. Boromir, why are you so unfriendly? Why are you backing away? Lend me the ring. No, the council laid it upon me to bear it. No, really, they didn't. Frodo took it upon himself to bear it. Okay? Frodo puts the ring on. And he's still there when Boromir says, Frodo, what have I done? Come back. A madness took me. Okay? Frodo runs to the top of the hill. And we're told he sits in the seat on the top of the hill. And what does he see? Okay, now he still has on the ring. And he sees the world, as it were, in mist. He looks to the north, and he sees the misty mountains, and he sees them crawling with orcs. Okay? Upon the boughs of Mirkwood there was a deadly strife of elves and men and fell beasts. The land of the Beornings was aflame. A cloud was over Moria, smoke on the borders of Lorien. Horsemen galloping in the grass of Rohan, wolves pouring from Isengard. From the havens of Harad, ships of war put out to sea. So he doesn't just look north, he also looks south. And then he looks east. And what does he see? It passed the ruined bridges of Osgiliath, the grinning gates of Minas Morgul, and the haunted mountains, and it looked upon Gorgoroth, the valley of terror in the land of Mordor. Darkness lay there under the sun, fire glowed amid the smoke, Mount Doom was burning, and a great reek rising. Then at last his gaze was held, wall upon wall, battlement upon battlement, black, immeasurably strong, mountain of iron, gate of steel, tower of adamant, he saw it. Barad-dûr, fortress of Sauron. All hope left him. He sees Sauron's might and he's devastated. And then he feels the eye. And the eye's kind of moving and looking. And it leaped towards him like a finger. He felt it, searching for him. Very soon it would nail him down, know just exactly where he was. There's three mountains here. Amon Hlâ it touched. It glanced upon Tol Brandir. He threw himself from the seat, crouching, covering his head with his gray hood. He hears himself crying out, never, never, or was it verily I come? Now this is kind of interesting. Is it never, never, or is it verily I come, or is it both? Because we're going to see almost at the end, on Mount Doom, a voice is going to come out of the ring. It's never clear whether it's Frodo's voice or the ring's voice, or maybe both.
Well, when it's with them for long enough, or is taken enough of a hold, that's what the ring does. That's what Gollum is.
Kind of, yeah. But then he hears another voice. Fool, take it off. Fool, take it off. Take off the ring. And the two powers strove in him. For a moment, perfectly balanced between their piercing points, he writhed, tormented. Suddenly he was aware of himself again, Frodo, neither the voice nor the eye, free to choose. And with one remaining instant in which to do so, he took the ring off. Notice, he's not yet fully succumbed. It's close, though. Okay? He's kneeling in clear sunlight. A shadow seems to pass. He rises to his feet, and what does he think? I've got to leave. Why? What's the ring doing? Or what does he think the ring is doing? What's it done to Boromir?
It's already corrupted.
It's corrupting the fellowship. He doesn't see what's happened to Boromir. He doesn't want what has happened to Boromir to happen to others. And he doesn't want others to come into danger because of himself. It's the same reason why he said, I've got to leave the Shire. I've got to save these others. It's not for himself, for them. Same thing. Okay? Sam realizes what Frodo is thinking. Okay? They realize it's been a long time since Frodo's been around. Boromir comes down, asks if anybody's seen Frodo. They're like, what's going on? So they all split. Aragorn tells Boromir, take off after Merry and Pippin. Okay? Legolas goes one way. Aragorn goes another way. Sam goes up, kind of following Aragorn, and then Sam thinks like Frodo would think. Hold on, Mr. Frodo, hold on. And they jump in the boat, and they go off down, we're told, into the land of shadow. Now, that scene where Frodo's on Amon Hen, and he hears the voices. Back at the Mirror of Galadriel, where was it? Right there. Back at the Mirror of Galadriel, Frodo asks, last page of the chapter, I would ask one thing before we go, a thing which I often meant to ask Gandalf in Rivendell. I am permitted to wear the One Ring. Why cannot I see all the others and know the thoughts of those that wear them? Okay? Galadriel, you have not tried. Only thrice have you set the ring upon your finger since you knew what you possessed. Notice, she knows that how? Because she has one of the rings. And that ring is connected to the One Ring. So whoever puts on the One Ring, Galadriel immediately knows. Okay? Do not try. It would destroy you. That is, don't put the ring on and say, I command all the other rings, Did not Gandalf tell you that the rings give power according to the measure of each possessor? So what kind of power did Gollum have? Not much. Enough to, throttle an orc in the dark or whatever. Before you could use that power, you would need to become far stronger and to train your will to the domination of others. Remember what Tolkien said in the Fairy Story essay about the difference between elvish enchantment and magic? Magic was all about the domination of wills and things in this world. Okay? Here she's told Frodo, in order to be able to wield the ring, you must be able to do what? Control others. In fact, you must want to control others. So, when Frodo has the ring on and he sits on Amon Hen, he perceives Sauron. What's the other voice? He perceives Sauron's eye and he hears a voice. Take it off. Fool, take it off. Take off the ring. More than likely, that is another ring bearer. Okay? That Frodo is clued into. At that point, we don't know who. It's never exactly said, but I think it's pretty clear. It's Gandalf. And it's probably Gandalf as he's lying on Caradhras when he comes back from Khazad-dûm, from the dead. Okay? Let's, I don't want to go ahead because I don't know how far you've read into the Two Towers. Let me see, is there anything? No, let's stop there. We'll stop there.